choices or good ones are far and few between with this organization. That's for sure.
You want to talk
Yes.
about an organization that set the standards so high with some of their draft picks? I mean, Calvin Johnson, like
Yeah.
Calvin Johnson, Barry
Megatron.
Sanders, just two of arguably the greatest players at their respective positions. Not named Jerry
Oh,
Rice,
yeah.
obviously at the receiver position, but yeah. So in that sense, you guys set a standard so high. So I mean, it is hard, and
But yet those guys retired in their
Yes.
prime. So go figure. So with that said, okay, let's go on to Matt Patricia. I know the
Yes.
heat is starting to get much hotter with this guy.
Yes.
What have you been able to hear locally?
Just everybody wants his head. They want him out. They don't like his calls on defense, and he's in my eyes viewed as arrogant when it comes to that. You know, like let somebody else make the decisions on defense and see where we are, not just you making decisions and constantly messing everything up. And so I agree with those views. You know, if you're not going to let somebody else take the wheel, then you know you need to leave because you're costing our team probable victories. I mean, we've been in every game that we've played almost, you know, except for like Minnesota and a handful of other teams that are not coming to my mind. But you know, we need something. We need a winning change. You know, and Bob Quinn is also on the hot seat too as well.
Right.
And so you know, we just need to make the right decisions and right
Well, yeah.
actions.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Well, you're right. I was just about thinking about Bob Quinn until you brought it up, which
Yeah.
is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, at some point he's going to have to accept responsibility because he's the one who went ahead and, number one, fired Jim Caldwell, which I thought
Yes.
was a big
Yes.
mistake. And two, then he brought him in with a supposedly a Bill Belichick crony
Yeah.
and a guy that was a defensive guy obviously isn't a defensive guy. And
Yeah.
what do you have here? You have a situation which, you know, this town expected a lot more, and I thought Matt Patricia was a
Yeah.
bad hire from the beginning. I really did.
Yeah, I feel like we just got a bunch of interns that are trying to figure out like the identity of the team, and they're too lazy to figure it out. And instead, they're looking at a successful franchise like New England and copying off them. That's what I feel like is going on.
Right.
We need more confident people that know what they're doing, that know how to build a winning team, and I don't feel like these are the guys for the job. You know.
I agree. Yeah, so,
Yeah.
you know, so what are you going to be doing on Thanksgiving? You going to have a day off?
Yeah. I'll work on the story or a story, and then I gotta go to the radio station. But yeah, definitely in between that, I'm gonna eat some food, get all fat, and then watch some football. So,
You ever been to a Thanksgiving game?
no, I've not. I've always wanted to go, but if the way that it's going with the Lions right now, I don't think it'd be worth my time missing out with family. So,
I can only tell you what my Thanksgivings were like when I was in Detroit. I used to go ahead and get to the Lions games around 8 o'clock in the morning on Thanksgiving. Get this, 8 o'clock in the morning
yes.
for a 12:30 game. Sometimes I even got there at 7:30. They'd let me in. And then I would leave the game after everything was done, like by 5 o'clock. I'd go home to hang out with family for about an hour, and there were some years where I would actually go to a third place. So my Thanksgivings
Yeah.
were 12 to 14 hours a day. I know you guys couldn't even visualize that, could you?
I have a similar kind of thing, but I am covering any football, unfortunately. So
No, the
Yeah.
closest thing you get to a Thanksgiving game is 48 hours after the fact.
yeah,
The,
so,
the only thing I dread about Thanksgiving is setting up, you know, the tables, the food and stuff like that. You know, just all I want to do is just sit down, eat, watch football, you know, and spend time with family.
Right.
So yeah, but yeah, I know what you're saying. So yeah,
Well, you know, Thanksgiving is a great tradition, and I was telling Lewis, and I'll reiterate to you, there's nothing like the parade on Woodward Avenue for sure, where you have the floats. It's a tradition that many years ago it used to be on national television. So,
yes.
so anything else you want to add about the Red Wings? I know the Red Wings and the Pistons play right around Thanksgiving, even though Lions get the day to
Yeah.
themselves.
Not that nothing comes to mind other than the fact that, like, you know, I've heard multiple times that we're probably living the worst decade when it comes to Detroit sports, and we really are. If you look at all of our teams, we're really not that great. It's sad, you know what I mean? So
Yeah, but compared to other markets, Detroit's had it a whole lot better. Let me tell you.
Yeah, at least we're not the Knicks. You know, I'd hate to be the Knicks right now. You know, or I mean, they got R.J. Barrett, but like, I would just.
I can tell you other towns that have gone many, many years without a championship, and Detroit's had their fair share since I've been alive. And back, you guys aren't old enough to understand, but back in the late 1970s, early 80s, things were really rough too. So
yeah, with the decline of the motor industry.
well, that too, but all the teams were not very good, and then they got out of it and they were winning a lot. So I can't say in my lifetime I haven't experienced winning because I have a lot, and there are other markets that are far worse than what Detroit's been through.
I think the way that the city has progressed, though, when they're they're modernizing a lot of the facilities around their buildings and living areas, I think that'll help the spirit of Detroit too. I think more people will become involved now that they obviously have a better means of living. Obviously, we know about the crime over there, but obviously modernization and just keeping up with a lot of the area will help. It will help the fan spirit too. I think there's a correlation between the two.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, they've done a good job fixing up downtown, but Detroit's come a long way. A lot of money's been invested into it, but there are other cities that have gone worse. All right, well, Damon, appreciate any other insights about Babcock being let go that you want to mention while you have another opportunity to talk about it.
No, not to my knowledge, but I did want to ask you guys. If you
Sure.
have to pick two candidates from, like one candidate from the Bears, one candidate for the Lions, who would you pick for your winners of the Turkey Gobbler? It's the trophy they get after they win the game. You know.
I mean, I think Trubisky has been okay these past couple of weeks, and they won a big game this past weekend. And obviously, there was footage of them celebrating in the locker room, and they need to embrace all that celebration they can right now. So if he plays well and he's not as heavy on his feet as he's been early in the season and last year, he can be a candidate. I think if he connects with his receivers and the offensive line's working, he'll be in good shape.
Yeah.
All right,
How
well.
many you got?
I'll just say both Scarborough if they get the running game involved. So,
Okay.
all right, we'll see. We'll check my report card on next Tuesday's Sports Exchange since we'll be broadcasting then. So, all right, Damon, thank you very much for being on the program. Have a great Thanksgiving, buddy.
Happy Thanksgiving,
You too.
Damon.
Yep.
Thanks.
You too, Lewis. Yep. Have a good night. Bye.
Bye.
Take care.
Learn anything about Thanksgiving there, Lewis?
Well, I'm actually looking more at the Lions, just following them on a more frequent basis, and looking at Matt Patricia, obviously coming from Belichick's system as a defensive mind. It's kind of fascinating about this narrative that's developing, and tickle my fancy on this. When Josh McDaniels first left, I believe it was after the 2008 season, if I'm not mistaken, and he went to coach the Broncos. He struggled. The Broncos were not a competitive team under him. I believe Jay Locker was a quarterback at that time, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, I mean, and then he went ahead and picked up Josh Daniels drafted Tim Tebow, just so you know.
Yeah, he picked up where he left off when he went back to New England. And then, obviously, Brian Flores' early struggles in Miami are one thing, and now Patricia, 3 seasons in, has struggled. So
Well, no, this is the second.
Oh, well,
that's okay.
Anyways, I mean, isn't it strange to see that once they leave that Belichick system, regardless of the information they obtain there, it never seems to translate?
Well, I mean, sometimes some coaching trees I don't think are actually as good as others. So it depends. Yeah, sometimes you kind of wonder about that a little bit. Again, it's teacher versus pupil. You and I know that drill, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, just because you learn a lot doesn't mean that you can actually put it to use. We want to hope and think that you can do that, but is that necessarily the case? It's hard to tell.
Right, it's like baking a pie, right? You can have the ingredients, but their pie is going to come out a lot differently than yours. I mean, Belichick, you can't fully replicate what Belichick's been able to do there. And I don't think anyone can. That's the gold standard, I think, in the NFL for what a head coach can aspire to do. But
well, not all of Don Shula's assistants worked out either.
Yeah,
so
it's strange. I mean,
but that's for another day, another time.
Definitely an interesting topic of discussion. I mean, we want to preview who we got coming on next?
Yeah, well, absolutely. Our next guest here is a guy that I came in contact with, American Sportscaster Association. His name is Jake Rongholt, and Jake's an aspiring sportscaster just like you, and hopefully we'll let him get into more of his background when he does call on the program, and we'll welcome him to the show. I always like to bring on new voices so that they can give different perspectives, just like the holdovers that we've had for a long time. So it'd be kind of neat, about what he has to say, what his goals are, and he'll talk about some of the things that we that are some of the main events, just like everybody else.
Yeah, and if any of you guys want to find out where you can get these shows, you can download them on Apple Podcasts. You can find them on Spreaker, and also be sure to follow us on Twitter. Follow Tribune South Scoop 33333, and me Adio_Lewis00, where you can find a lot of our content on there that we share via the Tribune.
And speaking of Jake Rongholt, Jake, we want to welcome you to the Sports Exchange. Glad to have you with us. Welcome to the family.
Thank you, Scott. It's a pleasure to be on.
All right. Well, Jake, first of all, we were giving the audience a little bit of an overview about what you're all about. So why don't you go ahead and continue on about what you're doing, and we'll get into some of the headlines.
Well, currently I do a podcast called Turning Points, where we go on both sides of the story. We live in a world of navigating through hot takes, so I like to do both sides and get good takes out there. I also do a right and wrong segment. I'm a film junkie when it comes to movies, so we also do a segment called Cinematic Escape. I've done play-by-play in my past for Rollins College when I was at the Dan Patrick School of Sportscasting. And I am just honored to be part of this family that you have given me, Scott, and I'm ready to talk some South Florida sports.
We are so happy to have you. So with that said, we'll use Lewis's favorite term called leading it off, and you're going to lead off, okay, with the FIU versus Miami. What are your takes on what happened over at the site of the Orange Bowl?
Craziest thing. And before we went on, I decided to watch the highlights one last time to just get a good feel. I was watching this game when I was in Orlando, and it was at a place called Hideaway. This was a Miami-themed bar, and I could definitely tell why it was called Hideaway, because it feels like the sports of Miami over the past year, but that's a story for another time. The craziest thing with me was, why was this played at a baseball park? I saw the camera shots, and I was just kind of stunned by what I was looking at, because it just didn't look right to me, even though the attendance was excellent, 27,339, so pretty much the equivalent of four home games for the Marlins and their attendance. But this was such a wonderful win for FIU. This is a team that has Butch Davis. He has been the coach since 2016. He has gone 23-12, and he, in his first year, got 8 wins, 9 wins in the second, and this year he has 6 right now. But it feels like he's going down that road to try and get that final win. It's unbelievable, because this was very personal to Butch Davis. You could tell, like, the way he was game planning and running the ball down the throats, because the Miami defense had no answer to this. There was a 3rd and 19 in the second quarter, and all they had to do was just make the stop. They couldn't stop Napoleon Maxwell. I never even heard of this kid. He went 24 yards on 3rd and 19, got the first down. Not only that, the defense was excellent. There was a guy named Sage Lewis, who was a redshirt senior, and he was able to stop DJ Dallas on 4th and goal in the second quarter. He just broke the record for most solo tackles with 83, and he did that in the second quarter alone. I was just flat out impressed by FIU, and the one thing that really impressed me, Scott, was they never stopped. Every time Miami felt like they were getting back in this game, Butch Davis will call out one of his running backs, Anthony Jones, and he goes 37 yards for the final touchdown, throws the nail into the coffin, and makes Miami look like a fool. It was just a dramatic game, a wonderful win, and I'm very happy for Butch Davis, because Miami has had 3 straight times to rehire him, and instead they think that Randy Shannon, Al Golden were better than him.
Good points. Yeah, to me, I find it mind-boggling that a guy like Butch Davis, who laid out the groundwork and handed Larry Coker a national championship team, did not be welcomed back. That to me is, can you imagine what the 68-year-old head coach is thinking, especially knowing full well, Jake, that it was the same FIU team that lost 37-7 at Florida Atlantic, although it doesn't hurt that they're coached by Lane Kiffin and was a good offense, but that's not the point. The point is he stuck it to Miami and didn't mind doing it. Good points.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Well,
But like
we
I
do
said,
too.
You know, it is crazy to me, Scott, how far Miami has fallen.